I am the owner and mostly operator of Aiken Farm and Panel. So from a management point of view, I manage the crew and let them know when and where to be. I set expectations financially and what our goals are in terms of marketing, product line, and services. As an owner point of view, I manage the finances on the back end, marketing, branding, things like that, of that nature.
Okay, and first of all, we're doing this interview, in the vehicle here. He is super busy, so I've been trying to meet with him for the past week, and he works all day, almost all night long, and even on weekends. So that's why this was the moment he had, and we're doing it. So, next question: how would you describe your leadership style?
So my leadership style, this is something I've been thinking about. Some people say that leaders are born, other people that say that leaders are created. The reality is it probably is a combination of both. I was born with certain natural leadership giftings, but then I also lack in some areas, and I'm very aware of that. I would consider my leadership style more of a manager and motivator.
Okay.
People that work with me and pointing out what they're good at, and then if there is a negative, I usually try to turn it into a positive, like, hey, my goal is to help you leave here better than you came here. So these are things I see that you do really well. Here's some things that I feel like you have the potential for, but that you're kind of weak in at the moment. Let's talk about how we can adjust that. And I feel like I'm strong in that area. However, I am weak in terms of disciplining, and in terms of, some might say cracking the whip. You have the carrot, which is the reward, and then the whip, which is the discipline. And I'm much better at the carrot than I am the whip.
Okay.
Yeah.
What types of qualities or values, in your opinion, would make an effective leader?
That could probably differ quite a bit depending on what kind of leader it is.
Mm-hmm.
If it's a military role, if it's a management role, if it's a business ownership role. But I think that a level of self-confidence is important, first of all. If you don't have a sense of trust in yourself, or a sense of your personal worth or giftings, you're really not able to lead.
Okay.
So confidence, I would say empathy. You have to be able to empathize with the people that you work with, and really see and feel. You have to almost preempt what they're experiencing before they even know it.
Okay.
Because if someone's getting burnt out, you need to be able to see that. Or if someone is not very motivated, and they may not even know why, but you might be able to look into that and see, hey, this person is rewarded by praise more than they're rewarded by money, and that might be part of that. So I would say confidence, empathy, and probably vision.
That's good.
You gotta have some vision for where things are going. If you have no vision, then you're just leading people in circles.
Yeah, that's great. Can you tell me about a time where you demonstrate leadership through one of those qualities or values?
So I recently had to take our operations manager and move him laterally into a sales and shipping and receiving position. I took him out of our top position. Now, he didn't get demoted, but he lost the title as operations manager, and I brought in a outside individual with stronger characteristics for that position. And so in doing this, I deflated the person that I replaced and moved laterally. I deflated his confidence, and I ended up having a strong lack of performance out of this person. Like, he started just lacking performance, and he wasn't doing like he normally did with his sales and with discussing with customers and being happy-go-lucky. And this person has always been a very strong performer in our business, but he was dropping the ball in terms of management and catching details. And that's why I moved him specifically into what he was best with. So I sat down and had a conversation with him, and I was able to empathize and read between the lines and feel and discern the fact that, even though his money hasn't changed, his pay hasn't changed, even though his level of leadership really has not changed, losing that head title really, it busted his bubble and broke his ego. And I realized that one of his rewards and motivators is his title, his prestige, the praise that he receives is more important to him than his pay, his benefits, and all these other things. So he didn't say this, but I was able to read between the lines and empathize with what he was feeling. And I was able to say, hey, look, you haven't been demoted. This isn't disciplinary. We love what you have done and what you're doing. And then, I was able to have that conversation with him one-on-one, but then in public and in business, once I was able to empathize and discern that, I have been able to publicly praise him in different ways, in front of customers and in front of other workers, just to say, wow, look at what a great job this person does. Look at how much they've done for us. He's awesome. I pointed out in one of our team meetings that he's produced more sales and more finalized service jobs than anybody else. And I was able to build him up with that, which is what I think kind of brought him back.
Yeah.
And allowed us to get some more production out of him and be in a more positive place with him as a company.
That's good. So in your opinion, how does one develop, these skills over time? And is there anything you're kind of working on right now?
How does someone do? So you develop these skills by being put in a position where you don't have them and you have to have them.
Yeah.
I mean, so being forced to need those skills is what causes you to develop those skills.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just plain and simple. Again, some of them might be inherent. Like I have an inherent level of empathy. I have an inherent level of vision, but it's still not enough, So being forced into situations where maybe you're losing people at work because you're not empathizing, or, people aren't listening to you as much because maybe you're not demonstrating the confidence that you need to as a leader. That's how that develops. As far as skills that I am currently working on, I guess you would say, being direct and having discipline without being heavy-handed and crushing crew morale.
Okay.
So I'm trying to come in and say, hey, I've set a vision, I've set a marketing goal, I've set a financial goal, y'all all know this, but now I'm gonna hold you accountable to it.
Okay.
But I'm not gonna come in there like a tyrant and yell at people and crush them and be mean to them and constantly discipline, because then I'm just gonna crush morale, and I'll lose people and it won't be a positive work environment. Yeah. So I'm working on finding that balance between exemplifying leadership and discipline and holding people accountable to it without being a tyrant.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So how do you go about, measuring your performance as a leader?
Measuring my performance. I don't think there's any concrete way to measure your performance as a leader in a small company like the one that I own. However, you can look at certain metrics to determine if you're trending in a positive manner or if you're trending in a negative manner. One of the number one things I look at is employee turnaround time. If I'm losing people super rapidly, I see that as a very negative metric of my leadership. Right now I have one individual who's been with us longer than 3 years, one who's been with us about a year, one started recently but's probably going to be here for a long time, and then another individual we recently lost in a very short period. However, that wasn't entirely on me. He was very young. He had different expectations of what the workplace should be outside of different adults. But I think, looking at employee and worker retention and satisfaction. And then you can also look at your financial metrics. When you're leading well, your numbers will stay stable or trend up. But if you have a lot of peaks and valleys consistently, it's usually an indication that your leadership is not consistent with your team and with your crew.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So along the lines of, talking about, you developing yourself and your skills as a leader, have you had a mentor? And if you did, how did you find them and build that relationship? And if not, where do you go to for advice?
I think that mentors are highly important. You always need someone who's been around the corner that you're about to go around to be able to grow as an individual and as a leader and as a business owner. I feel like I've had a myriad of small mentors, maybe not in a very concrete or formal way, but these are people that I've met in the work world or at neutral places like at your business, sometimes perhaps at church or other social gathering places where I've been able to foster a relationship over the course of time. I never try to jump right into, hey, will you be my mentor? But after 3 or 4 interactions, at times I'll start saying, so what did you do when you were in my position? How do you deal with how much you pay for people? How do you deal with workers' comp? So I have a couple of mentors. One is Tony Baker, who we mutually know. One is Darren Doyle, who I met when I was much younger, and at various times he's mentored me in very small ways, and now he's mentoring me in very exacting ways in terms of, how do you keep your financial numbers trending up? How do you get a larger market share? Things that I had no clue about. And then one I reached out to, which was I reached out to the business training program known as Rise Up Kings, and I specifically went there for leadership and business training because I'd heard of the positive impact that they have on personal development and leadership.
Yeah. This isn't a part of the questions, but just a comment. Something I learned in another class that is coming out here is the value of weak ties, and that's what it kind of sounds like here. Having, these, they're not super strong. Like, he doesn't have one mentor that he goes to, that he has, this super strong relationship, but maybe these more weaker relationships, not in a negative sense, but just where he gets advice here and there, and he has lots of different people and resources that he can go to for that, which seems valuable to me.
Yeah, I'll also say the older I've gotten, the more I reach out to my father for advice. When I was younger, I didn't necessarily see him as being a person. I saw him as a source of safety and friendship, but I didn't understand the value that he represented in terms of mentorship. But as I've gotten older, he never owned his own company, but he was in upper level management and had to deal with hiring and firing people and motivating people. And he's become a tremendous resource for, hey, what do you do in this situation where someone needs correction and their behavior is causing a problem, but you also don't want to lose that person? See, that's a difficult position that you get in management. You want to invest in people and build them, but you can't tolerate all types of behavior.
Right.
Like, some things are genuine problems, and he's been a great resource for that as well.
So going back to, talking about your team members, it sounds like with so many, different personalities on your team, how do you try to get everyone to buy into the team mission, to be successful, what the ultimate goal is?
So there are different personalities on our team, although I do see common traits as well. I look for leaders on our team. I want there to be leaders. Now, that's not to say I want everyone to be an alpha, but I want people to have a sense of leadership and stewardship. So when I hire people, I mention this in the hiring process, that I hire for really 2 things: character and intelligence. Those are the 2 primary things I look for. Everything else can be developed or trained. So if someone has good character and integrity, and then they're intelligent and they're trying to solve problems consistently, that's the kind of person that you want. So I start by creating an expectation that I hire intelligent people. And I expect you to be intelligent. I expect you to be a problem solver. See, I'm not hiring people to just do as I say at all times. I'm hiring people to be innovative and to be problem solvers. And so I set that expectation very early on in the hiring process. So that's the first thing, is I give people that personal responsibility, which is huge for buy-in. The second thing is I verbally express that I believe what's good for the goose is good for the gander. And what's good for the gander is good for the goose. In other words, what's good for the team is good for the owner and for Aiken Farm and Panel as a whole. What's good for Aiken Farm and Panel and the owner as a whole is good for the individuals. So we have different metrics. When we exceed certain monthly goals, everyone gets a bonus. They all get a financial bonus, and they know that. If they exceed like a second tier financial goal, everyone gets an even larger bonus. So they know that when we're working really hard, there's going to be a financial reward to them. Also, we do company team building. So about once a month, regardless of goals, we go out and we go axe throwing, or we go to a dinner, or if we've had a really good month and we're doing the team meeting, we might go to like Texas de Brazil or somewhere that they may not be able to afford to go to on the regular, and the company pays for everything. And so they have a sense of shared reward for the company, cool. And they recognize when the company does well, they get to do more of that. One of our guys, his car recently broke down and the company paid for it. And the way that looked like is we loaned him the money to fix the car, and then once he came back and paid the company back, or offered to pay the company back, we then, we being me and my wife and also our manager, we said, hey, thank you for following up with that and paying the company back. Consider it a bonus.
Wow.
And when you do things like that, you then gain the loyalty of people because they know it's not just about you.
Right.
It's about them. And furthermore, it's not just about them, it's about our customers. So we develop an attitude of trying to have a genuine Christ-like attitude and being positive towards all people, benefiting our customers, benefiting our workers.
That's good. A comment I'd like to make in the class, we were learning about, Dr. Bowler's talking about this proactive personality, which is really interesting to me. I haven't heard it before, but that kind of sounds like what you want when you look for, and kind of your personality, which is people who kind of challenge, what's going on, but in a way to, want to make things better. And I think that's really cool that you understand you kind of have that personality, but you also want to get people like that, not just people that are going to follow directions, but people that maybe kind of challenge things to want to, do things better and look for better ways to do things. So.
Yeah, and it starts with a person's integrity, really. I have one individual, I'm not going to name, but he's not quite in management, but he has a leadership position, and he's not always a great problem solver, but his heart, his will, his desire is always to do what's positive for the customer and for the company. And on multiple occasions, we've seen him working outside of hours because we have cameras. We've seen him coming in on a day off and taking care of things that he thought were a problem. And to me, that's the kind of person I'm looking for. That's the kind of person I'm willing to, give a 20% bonus to unexpectedly, because they're going and doing things unexpectedly.
That's great.
Being proactive.
So next question, if your team is struggling to meet goals, and how and what do you do to lead and encourage them to stay positive? And maybe you were telling me a story the other day about, sales were dropping drastically, and I kind of like what you were talking about that you did to kind of, meet with your team and kind of, turn things around a little bit.
So what is the actual question?
So the question is, if your team is struggling to meet goals, how and what do you do to lead and encourage them to stay positive?
Yeah, so this is very relevant. This is very relevant because we just went through this in a really major way. Our numbers were almost 50 to 60% down in terms of profits, which is major for us. We expect seasonal changes, but this was more than seasonal changes. I think the first thing is you have to address it. You can't just talk to one person here and there. You have to set the team down intentionally. And what I did in this instance is I didn't want to crush the team, and I didn't want to make them feel that they were in risk of losing their jobs or that we were in a dire situation. But I also wanted them to understand the gravity and the impact of having downwardly trending numbers in a way that meant something to them. Not just something that goes, Ethan's losing money out of his back pocket. See, that doesn't get anybody anywhere.
Right.
Also, it's the least important thing, is my personal money. It has more to do with the company and the whole. So sit everyone down, and I went over the hard truth. I said, hey, I've gone over the ledger very carefully. Sales are trending down 10 to 15%. Service jobs are trending down 40%. Payroll is up 30%, and weekly expenditures are up 20%. And cumulatively, that has us down 40 to 50% in profits. And when they saw that, when I said that, and they saw that, they were all like, wow, okay. And I expressed to them that, hey, look, this is a problem. But I encouraged them and built them up. I said, this is a problem that we're going to break through as a team. And then I stopped at that point and I said, hey, let's think for a second. So what? Why? Why is it important? And I had everyone share. And one guy was like, well, I like the work environment that we have at Aiken Farm and Panel. One guy said, the company's always had my back and taken care of me. He's the one that we repaired his car. Another guy said he feels like he really enjoys the bonuses and the company nights, and he feels like those are things that he doesn't get at other companies. And so I said, so those are things that y'all recognize that we have here, but you don't get to have elsewhere. Actually, another one of our managers, he mentioned that he felt like he's always been able to, he's a pastor, he's always been able to discuss serious things with customers and pray for them if they wanted prayer, and he felt like he's been encouraged in that way and allowed to express himself. So he felt that freedom of expression was important to him. And so I said, if numbers continue to trend down, likely over the course of time we will have to eliminate somebody.
Yeah.
But more than that, it's not, we're not sinking, but we're headed towards a problem area.
Right.
I said, if we can't correct this, we're going to have to start cutting some of the company dinners, some of the freebies, some of the bonuses, and I don't want that. I want our guys to be fruitful. I want them to have the things that they need. So I kind of brought everyone back to the shared sense of how does it affect them personally, because people are selfish. And then I went on to, what do we have the ability to do as a team and as a company? Where can we go? We used to be here, and now we make X numbers of dollars a year and so many sales, and it's cool to be a part of something that's growing, something that's doing something. And I expressed, hey, we can impact the agricultural world this way. We can help people sustain their own food production. If there's ever a war on American soil, we can help keep people in an area where they're safe and they're able to feed their own families. I made it about a bigger picture.
Right.
And then we talked about specifically what we could do to change. We talked about marketing, controlling expenditures, and tightening up our planning and identifying a clear plan for the week and going after it, rather than having waste time, because I recognized that we had a lot of waste time spent doing tasks and working on things that right now aren't essential. And that kind of brought the team back.
Yeah.
And actually, within 1 week, we trended up $6,000 already.
Wow.
And it seems like over the 3-week period that we're holding that same curve.
Wow.
So literally one meeting got us back up and over our quota.
Wow.
So